I worked my whole life for that car. A 1967 Mustang I restored with my own hands. Every paycheck, every free weekend for 3 years went into making her perfect. Meanwhile, my younger brother Tyler coasted through life on my parents' dime, failing out of college twice, never holding a job for more than a month. They always made excuses for him. But the night he broke into my apartment, stole my keys, and wrapped my dream car around a tree while drunk driving, I finally stood my ground. I never imagined my own parents would try to convince me to go to prison in his place. Let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe right now, because you will not believe how my entitled family tried to destroy my life to save their precious golden child. Growing up in suburban Michigan, it was always clear who the favorite child was in our household. My father, William, who everyone called Bill, built a successful career as a real estate agent, closing deals with a smile, while treating his own family like business transactions. My mother, Sandra, worked as a school administrator, ironically enforcing rules at work while letting my brother break them all at home. I was 4 years older than Tyler, which somehow translated into being 4 times more responsible in my parents' eyes. When I was 10, I left my bike in the driveway and got grounded for a week. When Tyler was 10, he put a baseball through the neighbor's window, and my parents laughed it off as boys being boys. The pattern continued throughout our childhood. I was expected to get straight, as while Tyler's C's were celebrated. I worked summer jobs from age 14, while Tyler received an allowance for doing nothing. Every achievement of mine was met with a quick nod, while Tyler's smallest accomplishments warranted parties and presents. "Dan, you are the older brother. You need to set an example," my father would say whenever I pointed out the unfairness. The message was clear: my only value was in how well I could model behavior for Tyler, behavior he was never expected to actually follow. Cars became my escape. My Uncle James taught me how to change oil when I was 12, and I was hooked. By 16, I was working part-time at Jim's Auto after school, learning everything I could about engines, transmissions, and bodywork. The smell of motor oil and the satisfaction of fixing something broken gave me purpose. I put myself through technical college, working full-time at the shop, earning my certification, while Tyler was failing his first semester at the state university my parents paid for. They blamed his professors, his roommate, the party culture, everything except Tyler himself. College just is not right for everyone, my mother would say, conveniently forgetting how they had refused to help with my technical school because it was not a real education. Tyler developed a concerning pattern early. Nothing was ever his fault, and my parents reinforced this toxic mindset at every turn. When he totaled my mother's car at 19, they bought him a new one. When he failed out of his second attempt at college, they paid for a luxury apartment so he could find himself. When he lost 3 jobs in 2 months, they covered his rent. Meanwhile, I moved into my own apartment at 22, working 60-hour weeks to make ends meet. I built my reputation as a reliable mechanic, eventually becoming head mechanic at Premium Auto, one of the most respected shops in the state. My bosses, Frank and Dwayne, valued my work ethic and attention to detail, giving me raises and responsibilities that reflected my skills. The worst part of Tyler's entitlement was his casual disregard for others' property, especially mine. Throughout our lives, he would take my things without asking, returning them damaged or not at all. My baseball cards disappeared when I was 12. My first tool set went missing when I was 17. My leather jacket vanished during his second semester of college. "You do not need it anymore," he would say when confronted, as if my not using something at that exact moment transferred ownership to him. My parents always backed him up. "Sharing is caring, Dan," my mother would say, though strangely, Tyler was never asked to share anything with me. Despite all this, I tried to maintain a relationship with my brother. I helped him move, fixed his cars for free, even loaned him money I knew I would never see again. I wanted to believe that eventually he would grow up, that my parents' enabling would someday end, that we could have a normal brother relationship. I was wrong on all counts. The Mustang changed everything. I found her on an online auction, A 1967 fastback in Highland Green, the same as the famous Bullet car. She was in terrible shape. More rust than metal with a seized engine, and an interior that looked like animals had been living in it for decades. But I saw her potential. For 3 years, I spent every spare dollar and minute on that car. I rebuilt the 390 V8 engine myself, sourced period-correct parts from across the country, and learned specialized restoration techniques from old-timers at car shows. My girlfriend Jessica would bring me dinner in the garage rental where I worked on the Mustang, understanding that this project was healing something in me my family had broken long ago. "This is not just about a car for you, is it?" she asked one night, as I painstakingly color-matched the paint. "This is the one thing they cannot take credit for, or take away from me," I replied, realizing the truth in my words as I said them. When I finally finished the restoration, the car was magnificent. Every chrome piece gleamed, the paint was flawless, and the engine purred like a satisfied lion. I took Jessica for the first ride, cruising down lakeside roads with the windows down, feeling truly proud of something I had created with my own two hands. I made the mistake of bringing the Mustang to a family barbecue last summer. My parents made polite comments about it being a nice hobby, while Tyler circled the car with an expression I should have recognized as dangerous. "Must be nice to waste money on toys while some of us are struggling," he said, running his fingers along the pristine paint in a way that made me wince. "I built this car from nothing while working full-time," I replied. "Maybe if you kept a job for more than 3 weeks, you could afford your own projects." The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. My father quickly changed the subject, but I noticed Tyler continuing to stare at my car throughout the afternoon, a calculating look in his eyes that should have warned me of what was coming. The day before everything fell apart, Tyler called me out of the blue. "Dan, I really need a favor. I have a job interview tomorrow across town and my car's in the shop. Can I borrow the Mustang just for a couple hours, I swear?" I laughed, thinking he was joking. "No way. Nobody drives that car but me." "Come on, man. This is a real opportunity. The buses do not run to that part of town and Uber would cost a fortune," he whined. "Then borrow Mom's car or have Dad drive you." "The answer is no, Tyler." He hung up on me, and 20 minutes later my mother called. "Daniel James, your brother is trying to turn his life around, and you will not help him with one simple favor." "What kind of brother are you?" "The kind who knows Tyler has never returned anything, in the condition he borrowed it," I replied, firmly. "I have put thousands of hours into that car. No one is driving it but me." "You have always been so selfish," she said before hanging up. I felt a twist of guilt, the programmed response from years of manipulation. But for once, I stood my ground. That car represented everything I had worked for, every value my parents had failed to instill in Tyler. I went to bed that night feeling uneasy, but proud that I had maintained my boundary. I had no idea it would be the last night I would ever see my beloved Mustang in one piece. The next morning I woke up early as usual to head to work. I made coffee, showered, and grabbed my keys from the hook by the door. As I walked out to the parking lot of my apartment complex, I stopped cold. My assigned space was empty. At first I thought I might have parked elsewhere, though I never did. Then the reality hit me like a physical blow. My car was gone. My beautiful, painstakingly restored Mustang was gone. I ran back upstairs in a panic, hoping against hope that I had somehow forgotten driving it somewhere else. That is when I noticed the slight damage to my door frame and the missing spare key I kept hidden in a kitchen drawer. Someone had broken in and taken not just my car, but specifically targeted the spare key. I immediately called the police to report the theft, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. While waiting for them to arrive, I called Jessica, who came over immediately. "Who would do this?" she asked, holding my trembling hands in hers. In my gut, I already knew. There was only one person in my life entitled enough to think my most prized possession was rightfully his to take, but I did not want to believe my own brother would stoop so low. The police took my report, promising to put out an alert for the distinctive vehicle. Vintage Mustangs are hard to miss, and the officer assured me car thieves typically take modern vehicles that do not attract attention. I did not share my suspicions about Tyler, still hoping there was another explanation. Then came the call that changed everything. My phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Is this Daniel Marshall, owner of a green 1967 Ford Mustang?" "Yes, that is me," I replied, my stomach dropping. "Sir, this is Officer Ramirez with the County Sheriff's Department. Your vehicle has been involved in a serious accident on Route 16. You should come to the scene as soon as possible." Jessica drove me there as I was too distraught to get behind the wheel. The scene that greeted us was like a nightmare. My beautiful Mustang was nearly unrecognizable, the front end completely crushed against a large oak tree just off the highway. The driver's side was caved in, and the pristine paint was scraped down to bare metal along the entire passenger side. And there, sitting in the back of a police cruiser, was my brother Tyler. His face was bloody from the airbag deployment, but he was conscious and appeared to be arguing with another officer. What made my blood run cold was the second ambulance on scene, paramedics carefully loading someone on a stretcher. The officer explained that Tyler had crossed the center line and sideswiped another vehicle before losing control and hitting the tree. The other driver had sustained serious injuries. "We found open containers in the vehicle," Officer Ramirez said grimly. "Your brother's blood alcohol level is well over the legal limit, and this was at 9:30 in the morning." "Was he authorized to drive your vehicle?" "No," I said, my voice hoarse. "He broke into my apartment and stole my spare key." The officer nodded, making notes. "That tracks with what the evidence shows. We will add breaking and entering, and grand theft auto to the DUI, and reckless endangerment charges." I stood there staring at the wreckage of 3 years of my life, feeling hollow. All that work, all that love poured into that machine, destroyed in an instant by the selfishness of someone who had been taught his entire life that consequences were for other people. My parents arrived about 20 minutes later, having been called by Tyler's one allowed phone call. My mother rushed past me without acknowledgement, heading straight for the police cruiser where Tyler Saturday. My father approached the officer in charge, his real estate charm on full display. "There seems to be a misunderstanding here," he said smoothly. "My sons share that car. Tyler had permission to use it." I stepped forward, rage finally breaking through my shock. "That is a lie. He broke into my apartment and stole it, after I explicitly told him no." My mother spun around, her face contorted with anger. "Why would you say such things? Cannot you see? Your brother is hurt. Cannot you see? He almost killed someone," I shouted back. "Look at my car. Look at that ambulance. Taking away an innocent person." My father put his hand on my shoulder, squeezing too tight. "Daniel, this is not the time for dramatics. We need to help your brother." I shrugged his hand off. "He stole my car, drove drunk, and injured someone. He does not need help, he needs consequences. It was just a mistake," my mother pleaded. "Anyone could have had a few drinks the night before and still been over the limit in the morning. He did not mean to hurt anyone." The officer, who had been watching this exchange with increasing discomfort, intervened. "Sir, ma'am, your son is being charged with multiple serious offenses. He will be processed at the county jail once medically cleared. The vehicle will be impounded as evidence." Tyler was taken to the hospital under police escort for evaluation before booking. My parents followed, not even looking back at me or offering a word of sympathy about my destroyed car. Jessica put her arm around me as I stared at the wreckage being loaded onto a flatbed tow truck. "I am so sorry, Dan," she said softly. "I know how much that car meant to you." "It was not just the car," I replied, watching as the tow truck drove away with 3 years of my life. "It was what it represented. Something I built, something they could not take away. Except Tyler had taken it away, and in that moment I knew our relationship would never recover." The days following the crash were a blur of insurance calls, police statements, and a hollow feeling in my chest every time I walked past my empty parking spot. My insurance agent regretfully informed me that while theft was covered, the policy had limits that would only pay out a fraction of the car's true value, especially considering all the custom restoration work. Tyler was formally charged with driving under the influence, grand theft, auto braking, and entering reckless endangerment and leaving the scene of an accident. I later learned he had tried to run away from the crash site before witnesses stopped him. The other driver, a 42-year-old father of three, named Robert, suffered a broken collarbone, 3 broken ribs, and a severe concussion. He would recover but faced months of rehabilitation and lost wages. When I heard this, I personally visited him in the hospital to apologize, though the accident was not my fault. "You did not put your drunk brother behind the wheel," Robert said graciously. "Do not carry guilt that is not yours." If only my parents shared that perspective. 4 days after the accident, my father called asking to meet at a diner halfway between our homes. I agreed, hoping against hope they had come to their senses and wanted to apologize for Tyler's actions and their response at the accident scene. I could not have been more wrong. I arrived at the diner to find both my parents sitting in a corner booth looking solemn. My mother's eyes were red from crying, and my father had the same expression he wore when negotiating a difficult real estate deal. "Thank you for coming, son," he said as I sat down. "We need to discuss how we are going to handle this situation as a family." "What is there to discuss?" I asked. "Tyler committed multiple crimes. The legal system will handle it from here." My mother reached across the table for my hand, which I reluctantly gave her. "Dan, your brother made a terrible mistake, but his whole life will be ruined if he goes to prison. Maybe he should have thought about that before stealing my car and driving drunk," I replied, pulling my hand back. My father leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Listen, the prosecutor is talking about 3 to 5 years minimum because of Tyler's priors." "Priors? What priors?" They exchanged a look, and my mother sighed. "Tyler has had 2 previous DUIs in the past 3 years. We handled them quietly." The revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. 2 previous DUIs that I had never been told about. My parents had not only enabled Tyler's behavior but actively covered it up, allowing him to remain a danger to himself and others. "So this is not his first offense." "It is his third," I said flatly. "And you hid that from me, even when I told you he wanted to borrow my car." "We did not think it was relevant," my father said dismissively. "The point is, we have a solution that works for everyone." He outlined their plan with the confidence of someone who had never been told no. I would tell the police I had actually given Tyler permission to use the car. This would eliminate the theft and breaking and entering charges. Then I would say, "I knew he had been drinking but let him take the car anyway," making me an accessory but reducing his charges significantly. "You want me to confess to a crime I did not commit," I said incredulously. "You want me to go to jail for Tyler." "Not jail necessarily," my mother interjected quickly. "Maybe probation or community service." "Your record is clean. And what about my insurance?" "If I gave permission to a driver with 2 DUIs, they will not pay anything for the car or for Robert's medical bills." My father waved his hand dismissively. "We will buy you a new car, an even better one, and our homeowner's insurance can help with the medical bills." I stared at them, truly seeing them for the first time. These people, my parents, were willing to sacrifice me, their law-abiding son, to save their perpetually troubled favorite child from facing consequences yet again. "No," I said firmly. "Absolutely not. I will not lie to the police. I will not commit insurance fraud, and I will not enable Tyler anymore. He needs to face the consequences of his actions." My mother's face crumpled. "How can you be so heartless? He is your brother. A brother who stole from me, destroyed something I loved, and nearly killed an innocent man," I replied. "Being family does not give him the right to ruin my life, too." My father's expression hardened, the mask of reasonable negotiator falling away. "If you do not help us with this, you are no longer part of this family. Do you understand what that means? No more holidays, no inheritance, nothing." I stood up, suddenly calm, in the face of this ultimate manipulation. I have not been a real part of this family since Tyler was born. The only difference now is that I will stop pretending otherwise. As I walked out of that diner, I felt a strange mixture of grief and liberation. The grief was for the family I had always wanted but never had. The liberation came from finally accepting that truth and refusing to participate in their toxic dynamic any longer. I blocked my parents' numbers that night and told Jessica everything. She held me as I processed 32 years of manipulation, favoritism, and the final betrayal of them asking me to sacrifice my future for Tyler's. "You did the right thing," she assured me. "They gave you an impossible choice." "It did not feel like a choice at all," I replied. "Just the first time I have been honest about who they really are." I thought that would be the end of it, that my parents and Tyler would finally have to face reality without me there to use as a scapegoat. I was wrong. A week later, I received a call from Detective Morgan at the county prosecutor's office, asking me to come in for additional questions. When I arrived, his expression was grimmer than I expected. "We have a situation, Mr. Marshall," he said once we were seated in an interview room. "Your parents and brother have given statements contradicting your account of what happened." He showed me copies of their signed statements. According to them, I had not only given Tyler permission to use the car, but had been present when he was drinking the night before, and knew he was in no condition to drive. They claimed I had essentially set him up to fail, out of jealousy and resentment. "This is absolutely false," I said, my hands shaking with anger. "I can prove it." I showed Detective Morgan the text messages from the day before the theft, where I explicitly refused to let Tyler borrow the car. I provided the original police report about the break-in at my apartment. I even had Jessica provide a statement confirming I had been blindsided by the theft. "I believe you," Detective Morgan said, after reviewing the evidence. "But you should know your family is pushing this narrative hard. They have even approached Robert's family offering a settlement if he will say you shared responsibility." Fortunately, Robert had too much integrity to participate in their scheme and had reported the attempted bribery to the police. But the fact that my own family would go to such lengths to avoid accountability struck me to my core. The final straw came 2 weeks later. I was at work finishing up an engine rebuild when my father showed up unannounced. Frank, the shop owner, came to get me from the service bay. "There is someone here to see you," he said cautiously. "He says he is your father, but he seems agitated. Want me to tell him to leave?" "No, I will handle it," I replied, wiping my hands on a shop rag. My father stood in the customer waiting area, his normally polished appearance disheveled. When he saw me, his eyes narrowed. "You need to fix this right now," he demanded loudly, causing other customers to stare. "Your mother can barely get out of bed because of what you are doing to this family. Lower your voice or leave," I said firmly. "What I am doing is telling the truth." "The truth is, you have always been jealous of your brother," he spat. "You could have helped him, but instead you are trying to destroy him." "He destroyed himself, Dad, and you helped him do it by never holding him accountable." Something in my father snapped. He lunged forward, grabbing my shirt collar and pushing me against the wall. "You ungrateful little." Frank and 2 other mechanics immediately intervened, pulling him off me. "That is it, I am calling the police," Frank said, already dialing. My father struggled against their hold. "Go ahead, I will tell them everything. How Dan set up his brother, how he is lying to the police." When the police arrived, they took statements from everyone present and arrested my father for assault and making threats. I later learned that this incident, combined with the attempted bribery of Robert, led to additional charges against my father for witness intimidation and attempting to obstruct justice. The truth finally came out during the legal proceedings. Tyler, facing serious prison time, eventually admitted to everything, including that our parents had coached him on what to say to shift blame to me. My father, desperate to save his favorite son, had crossed numerous legal lines, including attempting to bribe witnesses and threaten me into changing my statement. The court showed no leniency. Tyler was sentenced to 4 years in state prison for the DUI, theft, and related charges. My father received 18 months for witness tampering, attempted bribery, and assault. My mother called me the day after the sentencing hysterical and blaming me for destroying our family. "How could you do this to us? To your own father and brother, I did not do anything except refuse to lie," I replied calmly. "Everything that has happened is the result of their choices, not mine." "You are dead to me," she sobbed before hanging up. I filed for a restraining order against her the next day, unable to trust that she would not continue her husband's campaign of intimidation. The year following those events was both the hardest and most healing of my life. I started seeing a therapist to process the family trauma I had normalized for so long. Jessica stood by me through all of it, her steady support never wavering, even when I was at my lowest. "You know this is not your fault, right?" she would remind me when guilt crept in. "You did not put them in prison. Their actions did." Frank's auto shop became another source of support. My coworkers rallied around me, covering shifts when I had court appearances and never judging when I needed a moment to collect myself. "Family is who has your back," Frank told me one day. "Sometimes that is the people you choose, not the ones you are born to." Those words resonated deeply. While I had lost my birth family, I had gained clarity about what real support and love should look like. Jessica's parents welcomed me into their home for holidays, showing me what healthy family dynamics could be. 6 months after the sentencing, I received a letter from Tyler. Unlike my parents, who continued to blame me from afar, his words showed the first glimmers of accountability I had ever seen from him. "I am sorry for what I did to you and your car," he wrote, "and for everything before that, too. I am working the prison substance abuse program and beginning to see how messed up my thinking has been. I do not expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know I am trying to change." I did not respond immediately, needing time to process his words. Forgiveness, I was learning, did not have to mean reconciliation. I could release the anger without inviting toxic people back into my life. With the insurance payout and some savings, I started a new project car, this time a 1965 Shelby Cobra replica kit. The work was therapeutic, each component I installed representing another step in rebuilding my life. Jessica would bring dinner to the garage just like before, but now she would often stay and help, learning about cars while I learned about setting healthy boundaries. "This one feels different," she observed one evening as we finished installing the interior. "Not just the car, but you while working on it." She was right. This car was not about proving something or creating an object no one could take from me. It was simply about joy, about creating something beautiful with someone I loved. A year after everything fell apart, I proposed to Jessica beside the completed Cobra, both of us teary-eyed, as I thanked her for showing me what unconditional support truly meant. She said yes before I even finished asking. I sometimes think about the lessons I have learned through this painful journey. That blood relation does not equal healthy relationship. That standing your ground is not selfish when others ask you to compromise your integrity. That the family you choose can heal wounds the family you were born into created. Most importantly, I learned that breaking toxic cycles requires someone brave enough to say no even when everyone around them demands compliance. That person can be you. It was certainly me. Have you ever had to stand up against family pressure to do the right thing? Let me know in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might be struggling with similar family dynamics. Remember, sometimes the hardest boundaries to set are the most important ones for our well-being. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you find the courage to honor your own truth, whatever that may be.